There's a new poll out that's an insight as to what's happening in this country. But first, I have a question. You see these two guys? Between the two of them, they're worth $1 trillion. Trillion. That's 1,000 billion. That's nearly impossible to spend. These guys together could give away $1 million a day for 100 years, and not only would they still be richer than anyone watching this, but people would still hate their guts. Why? Because everything they do is about being rich. And that's especially why young people hate them. If you're under 30 and you're struggling for an affordable place to live, health insurance, student loan debt, all while watching billionaires in their F you hoodies pretending that they've accomplished something, well, that begins a grind on you. The results of this poll are coming up. But first, if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, come on. It's free and it's easy, which sounds like my college sex life. The Pew Research Center released a poll that said this: every day these guys are in the news, Musk and Zuckerberg, they're viewed more negatively than positively by the majority of Americans. Does that shock you? By the way, Trump is down too, but that's another video. So why are they hated? Well, Musk's been criticized in recent weeks for his efforts to totally f up the federal government through large cuts and mass firings, and Zuckerberg, who turned something that college kids used to use to get laid into a vehicle for misinformation and Russians to hack our election. But mostly we hate them because they're billionaires. Musk and Zuckerberg's unfavorable numbers were around 60%, with Republicans hating Zuckerberg more than Musk, and conversely, Democrats hating Musk more than Zuckerberg. But young people, they hate them equally at around 80%. And really, can you blame them?
Why do you think most people don't like rich people?
People talk shit about rich people because it allows them to keep small. That person's rich, he drives a fancy car, he's got a little dick. It's like all these things that they just default, they don't even know why they believe it. They use that to protect themselves from desiring more. So then it's really about what do you believe about that person? Because you know for you to achieve that, you would have to change your situation. You'd have to get rid of some of these other negative habits.
Okay, that guy says that rich people do great things and we simply envy them. To which I say, go f yourself. Now, rich people, and mostly Republicans, delude themselves that no one helped them, that they did it on their own. And some did. But in the real world, and by that I don't mean singers and athletes, it doesn't work like that. Workers are intimidated not to unionize. And in many red states, employers don't provide real minimum wage, health insurance, unemployment insurance, or protection from work on the job. Do these people have that Republican path of who wants to be a millionaire? I mean, this prick, Elon Musk, is firing thousands of people who do good work, like people at NIH, the CDC, and the FBI, and the CIA. We're not talking about slackers. These are real people.
We turn in the meantime to the massive layoffs playing out today of government workers, thousands of them, at multiple federal agencies, including the Department of Education, the CDC, and Veterans Affairs. And tonight, ABC News learning that hundreds were laid off at the National Nuclear Security Administration, the agency that maintains America's nuclear stockpile, before they were called back. Here's Mary Bruce.
Tonight across the country, tens of thousands of federal workers, from the Department of Education to Health and Human Services, from Veterans Affairs to the Department of Energy, suddenly told they are out of a job.
Last night I got an email around 9 p.m. Saying that my position was terminated.
In Greensboro, Georgia, Carly Arata worked at the Department of Agriculture.
I saw the subject of it and I kind of screamed. I didn't think it was real at first, so I reread it like 3 times and then kind of started crying.
Now, some Republicans, maybe someone watching this, believe that BS that anyone in America can grow up to be rich. And technically, that's true. You could win the lottery. I mean, people think they want to be billionaires, which explains the lottery. But the lottery also makes my point. You have a better chance of lightning hitting you while you're having sex with a movie star in a Maserati parked in front of your mansion than you do holding that big check. You see, the truth is hard. Millions of Americans live a couple paychecks away from losing their home or eviction. And the other path to wealth, like getting a good education, well, Musk is set to abolish the Department of Education, so you better hope you can dunk a basketball. Did you know 50% of the wealth in America is owned by the top 1%? And they use that money to buy power and influence in a way you and I could never. They influence tax laws, like Trump, who lowered the tax rates for corporations and the rich, costing our country trillions. There's that number again. And while you hear Trump talk about the stock market, did you know that 60% of Americans don't own stocks? They don't know the Dow from NASDAQ because they're working 2 jobs so they can pay some stranger to watch their kids. A stranger who many times they can only afford because she's an undocumented worker who this f***wickle wants to send to Gitmo.
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
What this poll really reflects is the divide in this country. rich white men have launched a crusade against poor people of color, claiming they're taking jobs away from Americans. Really? Do you think this piece of shit 16-year-old will spend the summer plucking dead fowl at a Mississippi chicken farm? And the vast majority of Americans struggling? They're white. That's how Trump got elected. This was never really about race. It's always been about class, pitting the black poor against the white poor against the Asian and Hispanic poor, while Musk makes billions in stock just by his influence with Trump. And that's why Zuckerberg is trying to cozy up as well. Rich people still tell you the financial disaster of 2008 was poor people trying to buy houses they couldn't afford. But that's a lie. Banks wanted them to default so they could sell the home again and make more in profits.
I'm really rich.
But hey, don't get me wrong. There are good rich people doing philanthropic work and real believers in the human condition. Just not these guys.
Goddamn right.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong? Yeah. TikTok.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donald.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.